Dr. Carol Sanders was a brilliant young doctor, admired by her colleagues and adored by her patients. Her compassionate care and sharp mind made her a favorite among the staff at St. Mary's Hospital. Yet beneath her confident exterior, she harbored a deep fear, the fear of making a mistake that could cost a life. One stormy evening, as rain lashed against the windows of the hospital, Carol found herself facing a dilemma. A critical patient lay before her, and despite her best efforts, his condition worsened. Doubt gnawed at her as she questioned every decision she had made. Did she administer the right medication? Did she miss a crucial symptom? Exhausted and overwhelmed with guilt, Carol retreated home, hoping to find solace in the comfort of her own bed. But her peace was shattered by a ringing phone. With trembling hands, she answered, only to be greeted by a chilling voice on the other end. "I know what you did, Dr. Sanders," the voice whispered, dripping with malice. "I know about your mistake." Carol's heart pounded in her chest as she listened in horror. How could anyone know about her lapse in judgment? She had confided in no one, yet this stranger spoke as though they had been watching her every move. The voice continued, demanding her resignation in exchange for silence. Paralyzed by fear and guilt, Carol felt trapped. Was this the price she must pay for her mistake? Would her career be tarnished by a single error? Torn between her integrity and the weight of her secret, Carol made the agonizing decision to tender her resignation. With a heavy heart, she prepared to leave behind the only life she had ever known. But fate had other plans in store for Carol. As she prepared to bid farewell to St. Mary's Hospital, a chance encounter led her to uncover the truth. It was not her mistake that had endangered the patient's life, but a calculated act of sabotage by a jealous colleague. Dr. Marcus Turner, driven by envy and resentment, had manipulated the situation to tarnish Carol's reputation and advance his own career. Fueled by righteous anger, Carol confronted Marcus, demanding that he confess to his crime and face the consequences. Cornered and exposed, Marcus had no choice but to admit his guilt and submit his resignation. With justice served, Carol reclaimed her rightful place at St. Mary's Hospital, stronger and wiser than before. As the clock struck midnight, Rachel's phone vibrated violently on her nightstand, jolting her awake. Groggy, she fumbled for her phone, the screen illuminating her dark bedroom. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" Her voice trembled slightly. Heavy breathing on the other end, followed by a low, sinister chuckle. "Rachel," a voice whispered, sending shivers down her spine. "I've been watching you." Her heart raced as she sat up in bed, her mind racing with fear and confusion. "Who is this?" she demanded, her voice trembling. The voice on the other end chuckled again. "It doesn't matter who I am. What matters is what I can do." Rachel's mind raced with thoughts of all the recent news stories about stalkers and home invasions. Was this some sick prank or something far more sinister? "What do you want?" she managed to choke out, her voice barely above a whisper. The voice on the other end grew colder, more menacing. "I want you to know that I can reach you anytime, anywhere. You're not safe, Rachel. Not anymore." Her heart pounded in her chest as she felt a wave of terror wash over her. This couldn't be happening. It had to be some sick joke. But the voice on the other end sounded too real, too threatening. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice shaking. The voice on the other end chuckled again, sending chills down her spine. "You'll find out soon enough, Rachel. Sleep tight." With that, the line went dead, leaving Rachel trembling in fear. She sat there in the darkness, her mind racing with terrifying thoughts. Was someone really watching her? Stalking her? Was she in danger? Unable to shake the feeling of dread that had settled over her, Rachel tossed and turned in bed, unable to find any comfort in the darkness. Every creak of the house, every rustle of the wind outside, sent her heart racing with fear. As the first light of dawn began to creep through her window, Rachel finally succumbed to exhaustion and fell into a fitful sleep. But even in her dreams, she couldn't escape the feeling of being watched, of being hunted by some unseen predator lurking in the shadows. When she awoke, she immediately reached for her phone, her hands trembling as she dialed the police. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was in danger, that the caller's threats were all too real. But when the police arrived and searched her home, they found nothing out of the ordinary. No signs of forced entry, no evidence of anyone watching or stalking her. It was as if the terrifying call had never happened. But Rachel knew better. She knew that somewhere out there someone was watching and waiting, biding their time until they struck. And no matter how hard she tried to convince herself otherwise, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was still in danger. In the dimly lit office of the telecommunications company, Monica sat alone, her eyes fixed on the glowing computer screen. It had been 6 months since her husband's tragic death, and she found solace in throwing herself into her work, even if it meant late nights in the eerie silence of the empty office. As the clock struck 11 p.m., her heart skipped a beat as the phone on her desk rang shrilly. With trembling hands, she picked up the receiver, her breath catching in her throat. "Hello?" she ventured, her voice barely above a whisper. There was only silence on the other end before the line abruptly went dead. Monica's hands shook as she replaced the receiver, her mind racing with fear and confusion. Was it just a wrong number or something more sinister? Night after night, the same ritual repeated itself. At exactly 11 p.m., the phone would ring and a voice would call out her name before the line went dead. Monica's nerves were frayed, and the once mundane walk home from work became a terrifying journey filled with paranoia and dread. She would glance over her shoulder every few seconds, her heart pounding in her chest as she quickened her pace. And once safely inside her apartment, she would lock the doors and windows, the faint sound of her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. But the terror didn't end there. One evening, as Monica peered out of her window into the darkness below, her blood turned to ice. There, lurking in the shadows, was a figure watching her intently. A young man, his face obscured by the cloak of night, yet his gaze filled with a haunting intensity. Panic surged through Monica's veins as she stumbled back from the window, her mind reeling with fear. How long had he been there, watching her every move, and why? Desperate for answers, Monica turned to the police, her voice trembling as she recounted the chilling events that had unfolded over the past week. With a sense of unease, she watched as they launched an investigation, their expressions grim as they combed through the evidence. Days turned into weeks, and still, the mysterious caller remained at large. It wasn't until the police made a startling discovery that the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The man lurking in the shadows was none other than Monica's neighbor, a young man who had been silently harboring feelings for her. But his love had twisted into obsession, his mind consumed by delusions of grandeur. As the truth came to light, Monica's blood ran cold. How could she have been so blind to the danger lurking right next door? With a heavy heart, Monica resigned herself to the reality of her situation. The police issued a stern warning to her neighbor, but it did little to ease her fears. For she knew that in the darkness of the night, he would always be there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And as Monica closed her eyes each night, the echo of his voice calling out her name haunted her dreams, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurked just beyond her doorstep.